Thank you, Julianne. Now we have Cheryl McDonald, and she's here to share a few words.
Bonjour tout le monde. Gwe. Sego sewa gwegum. Welcome. My name is Cheryl McDonald, and I'm glad to be here tonight. Yesterday I was working outside. It was beautiful, and I thought, just cancel. There's other speakers. And when I woke up this morning, I knew I had to be here with you. So thank you for joining us. I'm seeing some faces I hadn't seen in a long time. I see Michelle Odette. I see Chief Melody Morrison from Ganawage. I haven't seen them since I testified at Montreal in 2018 about my sister Carlene, who went missing in the middle of the night in 1988 in Agwizasne. And I can tell you that the 7 weeks that we looked for her and urged the police to look for her, that those were the most horrific times in our life, not knowing. And so I also want to give my condolences to the Wild family for Johnny's passing. He, like me and his wife Joan, are families representing the mapping project, which is being funded by the Réseau, the Iskweu Women's Shelter and the Native Women's Association of Montreal. And we're family members sitting to hope that one day families will come forward and share information about their family member. My sister Carlene, her body was found, but there wasn't anything left to really determine other than hypothermia, that is what she died from. But I can tell you, she was a woman who lived with violence. We were girls who grew up with violence. I testified that violence was at home when there was alcohol, when there was disagreements late at night. My parents were great parents who provided for us off reserve in the United States where they raised us. And so I made it back to Jojage, I made it back to Montreal, but Carlene only made it as far as Agwizasne, and she left behind 3 children. And she lost a son 2 years ago. And so the hole that an Indigenous woman leaves in her family is enormous, and it's deep and it's dark and it's lonely. It's a lonely place to live, because moments in my life with my husband and my children and my other siblings and my nieces and nephews, there's always this dark cloud of not knowing. And now I'm a grandmother now, and my grandchildren don't know who that woman is who's smiling at us in a picture frame that's hidden behind a curtain in my bedroom. That's how painful it is to lose someone under suspicious circumstances, when the professionals are telling you she'll be back, and we knew she was depressed and sad. And so when they found her body in the woods and removed her skeletal remains and left her hair, I talked about seeing that, smelling that, and trying to forget that. And I want you to know that when we come out to heal and deal with the feelings that come up, anger is there, and it serves to protect us. It makes me strong to be able to speak to you. But I carry a lot of anger, because they should have found her in a few days. Maybe she'd still be alive. Maybe my dad would still be alive, but he only hung in 5 years after she died. The pain that is inflicted by this trauma is enormous. So thank you for being with not only me, but with all the other families, especially for the ones still searching, especially for the ones that were just found and identified in the Winnipeg landfill. the ones up north, the ones south. We hear the politicians, the new catchphrase, right, from coast to coast to coast. Well, it's bleeding red. And we want justice. And I want to feel safe when I walk down the road of Oka, Quebec, and I drive through the reserve of Genesadage that's all over the news. Nobody knows what to do with it. There's so much weed in that town being sold. Good luck finding a local store there. It's like the city came to the reserve and everybody's okay with it. Well, I'm not okay with it because violence is everywhere. We have a leadership of chiefs that are divided and they're all running for chief again. What families need is leaders. Leaders with integrity. Leaders that aren't leading to get what they can get for themselves. Leaders that care about the little girls and the elders and the women living here on the street. Women that want to be heard. Women that fled their communities because it's not safe. And Chief and Council's hands are tied because they're also known to be violent. I met a lot of people when I worked for the Indigenous Human Resources in Quebec. I gave 23 years of my life trying to help people to find a job, to be financially independent, because I wasn't raised on the band office paycheck. I earned that by working there before I left and went to the regional office. But I saw violence in the workplace. I saw leaders look the other way and not do their job. I saw people, and I was one of them, sleeping in hotels and traveling everywhere. And my sisters are gonna sleep on the street tonight. That's what makes me angry. I'm tired of people just using the red dress for their own gain. I want sisters safe in the houses that they own like I do. And I have to come here to Montreal because my chiefs in my community, they don't want to know me, because when you speak the truth, they call you crazy. And trust me, ask people, hey, you know Cheryl McDonald from Genesadage? Ask them. And when they say nothing, that'll be your answer, because I don't bury deceit. I face it head on. And if I ever had an enemy, they respect me now. I'm not playing office anymore, people. I'm living with you at the grassroots, and I see where the money that comes up at the top row in government just rolls down like a gumball and nothing comes out. And that's what our brothers and sisters here in the city gotta tolerate when these skyscrapers replace a hospital. They're not making houses for us. They like it that we're broken. We need to be strong. And I'll just close my speech in saying that no one can give you healing. Healing comes when you're alone with yourself, like we all were with COVID, when we all had to be locked up. Didn't it kind of show us what our life was? Every one of you tonight, do that for yourself. Look at what your life is. Because I stopped working 10 years ago and I didn't leave for another job. I left to get away from the environment that was telling me to just look the other way. I'm sorry, but I want my people to have integrity if they want to run for chief, if they want my vote. But number one, if they want my respect, I want to see their dignity. And I want to see change here with women like Nekasset, who I've known for over 30 years. And she's still here because she cares. When she's not here, who's going to care as much as her?
Where is she?
I wonder, because I see her on the news, and I want to get in my car and I want to come down here, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I don't work anymore. But I hear you, sister. I wish you could have a home like me where you wake up and you go to bed and it's safe and no one can come in there and disturb your peace. You're protected. You have rights. See, the homeless don't have any rights. And that's got to change. So we got a new leader. He's gone to Washington to go see Trump. You know, in 2017, when Trump first got elected, I went with a busload of women to Washington, D.C. And we need to stand together as women again. I want to thank all the men that came out with women or on your own to be here and to hear, because you know what? We're all life givers. And we're more powerful than any man-made power on this earth. And so all these little girls, they're going to grow up safe because we're all going to be watching out for them. They're learning things that we didn't get to learn about as kids. We couldn't even ask questions as kids, but we saw violence, we saw abuse. But I don't see that anymore because I removed myself from those places that I can't change. I'm not running for chief. I'll never run for chief. I'll run from that system because they're all systems of oppression. Once they pay you, they just bought your silence. So I'm not as angry as I was last year. Last year I had a lot of anger. Oh, I let the crowds have it. But I'm not angry anymore. But I had to work through that anger because we have emotions and we should express them. So don't be afraid to shed a tear. Don't be afraid to question someone's behavior. If they're overstepping your boundaries, you have a right to say no. And let them get mad. Let their egos be hurt. Yeah. So I'm going to give the floor. I don't see a lot of police, but I didn't look back. But hey, there's no police. See, we're not a threat anymore. That's a good thing. So thank you for all you young people too for holding the signs and people coming up and remembering me, you know, when I'm home in my yard, you know, there's no place else I want to be, you know. I'm home finally, the home I dreamt of as a kid, my home. I live in it. I own it. Nobody's going to take it from me. Woo!
Oh, we always happy in the home right now at this moment. Look at all of us. Yes. I just say speechless, someone small.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you so much. Now we have Sheriff Frances Renee from Akwesasne, Mohawk Territory. She's a hard helper and a woman warrior. And she's taught me so much already in the short time we've worked together, and I'm so happy to have her here today to speak with you all.
What's been walado sa wagwego? Panangat Diyos na yung yak, wagata yuni, Akwesasne Tegido. I'm here today in honor of all of our missing and our murdered. And I'm so honored to have been invited here to speak some words from my heart. First, I want to acknowledge the weight of this topic. It's important that we honor ourselves and we tend to our spirits. So at any time, if somebody is struggling, I encourage you to see us, to smudge, to lean on our medicines, to reach out to the organizers for support. Next, I'd like to share some words to help us bring our minds together. MMIW refers to the ongoing crisis of violence against Indigenous peoples, especially our women, our girls, and our Two-Spirit. We are here today on Red Dress Day, the National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous People, to call attention to the devastatingly high rates of disappearance, murder, and systemic neglect that's happening across Turtle Island We're here today to call an end to this disparity. Violence against women, girls, and Two-Spirit affects every community across Turtle Island, but it's happening in our communities at alarming rates. Indigenous women are 5 times more likely to experience violence over the course of their lifetime than any other race in North America. Indigenous women and girls are murdered at 10 times the rate of the national average. 83% of Indigenous men will experience violence at some point in their lifetime. This is due to the intentional dehumanization of the Indigenous woman and child. Upon contact with the colonizers, there was the intentional campaign to make us less than human. We saw this with events like the Sullivan Campaign and Wounded Knee. This allowed for the hypersexualization of our women and our girls, and it devalued our sacred roles within our societies and our nations. The imposition of patriarchy aimed to uproot our matrilineal lines of leadership, warriorhood, and community building, leaving us vulnerable to dispossession from our traditional lands, leaving us vulnerable to sexual exploitation and violence. The dark legacies of the United States and Canada's detrimental federal Indian policies are entrenched in racism, erasure, and assimilation. We have been subjected to removal, termination, forced sterilization, the residential school era, the 60s scoop, heightened surveillance of Indigenous families through child welfare, and the overrepresentation within our criminal justice systems. All of these intergenerational traumas are contributing factors to the alarmingly high rates of human trafficking, especially sex trafficking, that is happening in Indigenous communities. Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit have a greater likelihood of being trafficked. But recent studies and our community-based work tells us that our men and our boys are also at risk. There is an intentional targeting of Indigenous people by those who perpetrate this crime, and this is an egregious violation of our human rights. We have the right to safety in our traditional territories, and we have the right to safety in urban communities. We must bravely name these things so that we can better understand how and why this is happening in our communities. And we must work together towards ending human trafficking and violence against our Indigenous peoples. Although Indigenous women and girls make up less than 4% of Canada's population, we make up 50% of all human trafficking cases. Ontario is among the top 2 provinces with the greatest occurrence of police-reported human trafficking offenses. But we all know the truth. The rates are much higher, and our stories go untold and unnoticed by the media. Unfortunately, many of us with lived experience of sexual violence, and those of us who work within the gender-based violence field, have come to understand that Superman is not coming to save the day. We have to save ourselves. We have to protect our women, our men, our Two-Spirit and LGBTQ+ community, and we have to protect our children. We are protecting our community circles by showing up here today to learn ways to work together, to empower ourselves, and to ensure the safety of those we love. I would like to call attention to the intersection of human trafficking and the epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous peoples. I have served over 540 MMIP families and survivors across Turtle Island, where we identified an increased likelihood that an individual would go missing or be murdered if there was human trafficking occurring. We documented cases where women vanished from state-based care in group homes, foster care, or treatment centers. We stood alongside families as they demanded inquests for justice. We fiercely advocated for proper identification of our Jane Does.
But we are still here!
We're here to call for accountability in all levels of government. Federal, state...
I ain't got no government! I ain't got no government! What is the government? Be nothing. I know where they are, but I'm still me. I won't die me. I cannot be replaced.
We need accountability from the provincial governments, and we need accountability in our own governments. In our tribal and First Nations governments, it's time for leaders to step up. We documented traffickers who were both known by and strangers to their victims, including abusive partners, pimps, and visitors from outside the community living in man camps paid for by the natural resource extraction industry, which draws the link between violence against Yumkimisaha Ahunja, our Mother Earth, and Indigenous people. Violence against the land is violence against Benungwe, it's violence against us as Indigenous women. We will not rest until these missing and murdered are brought home to our community circles. We will not stop saying their names as we fight for justice and land back. I'm going to raise an eagle feather to honor all of our women, our men, our Two-Spirit, and our children who have not yet found their way home. We honor you. We miss you dearly. We will not stop looking for you in the mountains, in the valleys, and the landfills. We love you. We pray our Mother holds you gently as you wait to be found. At this time, I invite you to speak the names of any of your lost ones out loud or to yourselves. Emily Pike, 14 years old, San Carlos Apache tribe. We will take a moment of silence and send good medicine to all these relatives and ask that Iskweu Dizzle keep them safe and guide them home. Violence against women occurs silently through power and control. It is complex and eluding, but when we join our minds, our voices, and our hearts together as one, we are capable of creating communities of care, where we are the true frontline protectors and the fiercest warriors. We are the superheroes, armed with the prayers of 1,000 ancestors. So thank you all for taking the time to be here today and for being a part of this important work. I'm going to end with offering a song. I'm going to offer a seed song. And I want to offer it in honor of those people that are being held by the earth just as she holds the seeds. So when I sing this song, I welcome you to send your good medicine and your energy to those seeds.
After